He came from India to solely support his family and his 11 brothers and sisters, to help them financially so that they could attend college. Once here, he was isolated and rejected for his color, his heavy accent, and was ready to go back home when his resilient immigrant personality awakened. He stayed and persevered. He saw each challenge, discrimination, favoritism, and conflicting values as a learning opportunity, a way to grow. My guest this week is Kam Gupta, management consultant and leadership coach. In this episode, he talks about his journey, his struggles, and how he looks at discrimination and diversity through a new lens. So go ahead, grab your cup of tea, and join me in this episode of Empowering Conversations. Hello and welcome to the Empowering Conversations podcast, a place to get inspired, challenged, and empowered by stories of immigrants who build their success from zero. I'm your host, Mehran.
So I came to this country a long time ago from India, and I came from a very poor family. So I don't want to really feel like bad about that part, but I just, as a background, I came from a very poor family. And I really had no dreams of coming to America. However, our family was so large, like we had 12 siblings, and so much in need of resources that I got a chance to come here to be a Russian interpreter. I was so scared because I didn't speak very good English at that time. Somehow that fear was overcome by people's assurances and all those things, and I came here. And my primary goal was to make enough money to send home so my younger brothers and sisters can go to college. Somehow people told me it's easy to make money in America. And I thought, oh, money grows on trees in America. So that was the understanding that I came here with. And to be honest, I couldn't find any trees so far. So there was not so welcoming attitude of people coming from India here. When I came here, they did not have very good feeling of foreigners, especially foreigners of color, to come here and take the jobs. And when I came here, there was some recession going on. So there were even more resentment of foreigners coming here and taking their job. And they always think India as a third world country. And they even asked me if I had camels to go to work, or did I have a bullock cart, which will take me to work in India. So that was quite some time back though. And we were colored, so they really made us make sure that we knew that we were colored. So that's how my journey began. I had mixed feelings why I came here, but once I was here and I had a job, I began to start dreaming. And then the rest is history. And we will explore as we journey further down the lane.
So you came here not because of yourself, you came because of your brothers and sisters to send them money so that they could get educated.
Yes, and I could support my parents who worked so hard to bring us up.
Wow. What year was this?
1973.
Oh, wow. It's been some time, huh?
On Halloween.
Oh, on Halloween. That's interesting. How did it feel like, coming in on Halloween?
It was amazing. I came here and people were wearing masks and everything. And I said, that's not an advanced country. I mean, that's how I felt. And I asked them if this was the right country that I came to. And they said, yes, yeah, this is America. We get weird sometimes. And so that memory is still fresh in my mind.
That's really interesting. So did you come as with a visa? How did you come?
Yeah, so in those days, the system was that if you have a job already in your hand, you can get a green card right away.
Wow.
So funny thing was that I would have never gotten green card because of my education. But I got a green card because I spoke Russian.
Wow.
So that made me realize you just don't have to have degree. You need to have some sort of capabilities, skills that can make you successful in life. So that was my first lesson learned.
Interesting. But the green card process, as you might know, it's gone much,
It's
much
crazy now.
harder. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of my nephews and brothers came after that, and it is very, very painful. Yes.
So the brothers that you supported their education, they joined you later?
Yeah, they are now much better than I am. And I'm happy for them.
It was interesting that you said people at that time made sure that you knew you were colored. What do you mean by that?
Or they will tell us that we are brown people, that we are colored, they are white. In those days, there was not much like a social justice kind of thing. So even in promotions or anything, they would make sure that they knew that we have to work harder.
Wow.
So when I came here, first thing they asked me, I don't have any American experience, so they cannot give me a job. And I looked for my other jobs, like technical jobs. And I said, if you don't give me a job, I won't have an experience.
That's true.
And then they said, you don't have any American education. So that challenged me. So I went to school here. I did my master's. And then once I had American educations, many, many doors opened for me.
So if you were to give an advice to someone who has migrated recently, would you say they need to have education,
If they can get some American college degree, many, many doors will open for them.
but a strong skill in something can
Yeah.
substitute as well?
You
But
need to
it might be a little harder.
yeah, you need to feel good about your capabilities.
That's very
Same
true.
thing was with the experience. When they said I had no experience, I actually had 6 years working experience in India, but that won't count. However, when I got 1 year experience in America, then I could say I have 7 year experience and that counts.
Interesting. What were some of the biggest challenges at the time? Some of
English is
those.
my biggest challenge
Yeah.
when I came to this country. It was very heavily accented, and I was using British words, not English, not American words. And I was hard to understand. Even now, like I have slowed down a lot, but I was running at like 55 miles an hour. And because I learned Russian when I lived in Russia about 6 months, so I didn't have any accent in Russian. So Russians had no problem understanding me, but Americans had so much problem that they would say, please say it again. Can you spell it for me? Can you slow down? And everything they were telling me, and I was so frustrated. And I said, I want to go back. Then one of my friends said, why don't you take some ESL classes? So then I took some English classes, both speaking, reading, and writing. And I understood the way Americans speak, their colloquialism or their idioms that they use. So that helped me assimilate with the business community better, understand their jokes better, be able to humor with them, and make friends with them because I was able to understand at their level. Then I took interest in the sports and other things. So we can talk about football, we can talk about baseball, and that rises you up in the corporate world.
Being able to communicate.
Being able to become one of them in that sense.
Mm.
I went for a job interview for a director's position. They liked everything about me, but I didn't get the job. So I asked my headhunter why I did not get the job. And he was uncle of one of my friends. So he said, Kam, because I am his uncle, I'm telling you, otherwise it will be considered as discrimination. You look too Indian.
Wow.
I said, what do you mean? He said, well, the way you were dressed, the way you were talking and you're moving, they did not feel connected with, they didn't feel comfortable with your style of management, even though you might be capable. So he advised me to change my wardrobe completely, make it very professional, spend a lot of money on my clothings and everything. It told me what colors are more progressive colors for my kind of skin, what colors are that they blend me in the crowd rather than really stand me out. And because I had a desire to grow and be me, so that helped me. I did not let my ego come in middle, basically.
Mm.
So I could see the difference. And he said, read the book, What Color Your Parachute? And once I did that, before I was getting one offer out of 10 interviews, I began to get 8 or 9 offers out of 10 interviews.
Wow.
Because what I learned was that if you dress really, really well, your self-confidence goes up. You feel good about yourself. And when you feel good about yourself, your communications are more pleasant. So I'm thankful to that person who gave me that feedback. Otherwise, I would have never known. And I would have used the word discrimination without knowing why.
What year was this?
It was in 80s.
Kam just gave us some valuable tips to get hired and grow in our careers. Let me summarize them for you and add few things to it. 1. Invest in your education as it will open new doors. 2. If you have a heavy accent, work on it. 3. Slow down as you talk. 4. Blend in a little without being defensive about it. Here we're not saying to change your identity entirely, but being completely different and asking others to accept you for who you are without you putting any effort is honestly illogical. Let's remember, we chose to come and stay in this country, and in order to succeed, we have to adapt. Wearing professional clothing, taking an interest in what others are talking about are some of the harmless ways to improve our professional relationships. But let me take it up a notch. Be cognizant of your personal hygiene. Wear deodorant. Don't wear too much makeup, too much perfume, too much cologne. Be conscious of the type of food you take to work. Eat without making noise. Respect others' personal space. Honor others' differences as much as you expect them to honor yours. Welcome criticism with open arms and open hearts. Read books and invest in your professional growth. Listen to the past episodes, especially second episode where Nelson, a VP of biotech company, talks about the attitudes that help him succeed as an immigrant. Hire a coach. Patience is not the recipe for everything.
Ego is something that a lot of the Middle Eastern cultures and Asian cultures, I feel, struggle with, especially male. The woman issue or something else from what I've heard. Did you feel that way, or do you see that trend as well?
Ego is predominant in us. We will rather be hungry than be ego-free. Unfortunately, that is the human nature, I think. And it is cultural, like you said, it's very cultural. Man dominates everything in my country, in other countries. Slowly it is changing, but not in the Middle East, because they're still very much guided by the diktat of the religion rather than of humanity. So it is very, very hard for them to change that. And secondly, anybody who has control, they don't want to let go of it. So there is a resistance, a strong resistance. So I had a lot of ego myself, and I was poor because of that ego. And I will blame everybody for my failure rather than take responsibility for my success. So once I decided that, once you make a decision to grow, your ego will go away because now you're open to possibilities.
But a lot of people, a lot of our listeners might think, okay, I do want to grow, but I don't know where's my ego showing up.
Yeah.
The awareness, right?
Many people want to grow financially. They don't want to grow as human beings. And that's what the difference is. So like somebody told me, everybody can make money in spite of themselves. And actually some of the very rich people have very bad ego. They have strong ego, but also very negative ego. And they can do more harm than they can do good. So ego doesn't mean that, and you will not see that ego. You will say, hey, I have the power. That's why you're jealous and you think it's my ego. So ego will go down only when you tell yourself that I want to grow as a stronger human being. If you say, I want to make more money, I want to be an engineer, those will not remove your ego because that ego is more intrinsic in your personality.
Once you become, that might actually feed into that ego.
Amen. That will actually feed. Look how successful I am. And that's my ego. You don't have an ego. That's why you are a failure.
How can we recognize that ego? Where is it popping up? And B, how can we remove it?
I think first thing is that awareness, like you said, and people like yourself who are coaches, we can bring some learning information, not just information, some impactful information where the listener will feel like, that connects with me. I want to be like that. Then we can make an impact. And secondly, we got to stop using our past as a path to our success for the future. When we come here, to be honest, there is no past. This is a brand new country for us. If we can think that way, that this is where my future starts and new past is built. People tell me America is not a good country, they don't have a good character and all those things. And I tell them, how much character do we have in our own country? Right? And remember what they told us. They said that you can only see the things that you have in you. What you see is actually your reflection. So if you're looking at bad things, chances are you got a lot of bad things inside you. So I asked them, what are the good things you notice in America? And they said, I can do anything I want to do. And I said, how powerful it is compared to what the bad things you're noticing. And then they tell me, oh, you are becoming like Americans. So they are fighting themselves in preserving the old ways, the ways that gave them hurt and that they brought them here. They still want to keep it, yet they're refusing to learn the new things. So I made a policy that I will notice what I like in this country. What are the good things about this country? Why this country is so successful? And what were good things in my culture that I still want to keep? So I keep the best of both worlds rather than the worst of both worlds.
So what are the good things about your culture that you did keep?
In my culture, I was always taught that I must be nice to people. I must not hurt people's sentiments, feelings. I must help people if I can, to the extent I can, without expecting anything back. And I must learn to speak the truth in such a way that it does not hurt others, yet it still speaks the truth. And I remember those things, and my mom always used to do that way. I mean, even when I told you that we came from a poor family, even then, if somebody will come to our doors and ask for money, she will still give them some food or something. And we used to fight with her. We don't have food and you're giving them the food. And she said, obviously, they needed more than us.
Now, what were the things that you let go of? I mean, you didn't like from your culture and you let it go.
First thing I let go was I can't.
I can't. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. So I'll totally let go now. Now I don't even say I can. I just say if I want it or not. And if I want to do it, then I need to find out how.
Do you keep the best of the two worlds, or are you living in the worst of the two? Here I'd like to give you an exercise. Write 3 things that you like about the new culture, and 3 things you love about your own and want to keep it. And then try to embrace the two and see a different world in 2021. Coaching tip. Immigrants. We come from collective cultures that embrace unity. Remember back home? We took care of one another. We supported our communities during hard times. I grew up during Iran-Iraq War, and our house was one of the few with a basement. It was a place of refuge for many of our friends and family. Did you experience that as well? One way or the other? And do you remember how lonely you felt when you came to this individualistic culture? This year, we can embrace our collective cultures and teach others what it is like to love on our neighbors and selflessly help our communities heal through these very difficult and divisive times. Let's make 2021 the year others learn about immigrants' values and their impact on our communities.
Going back to what we said earlier regarding race issues, do you still see that pattern right now? And do you think that we are on the right path to change it?
So here is my take on that. Race issue exists in every country, in every culture. If you think in Iran there is no race issue, you are mistaken. And in India, it's not a race issue, it's a color issue. If I'm a fair skin, I'm a privileged guy. If I have a dark skin, people will treat me differently. So I realized that these issues, the discrimination issue based on color, based on religion, and based on race are universal. Even in Africa, there are race issues. Like those tribes, Hutu tribes and other tribes, they fight each other even though they are same religion. In the same country, they kill each other. Even in religion, you can see, like two sects of one religion fight each other, even though the God is the same. So these issues are man-made issues. And secondly, some are inherent. When I look at you, for example, right? I will look at you differently because you are a unique person. Then when I look at another girl, because she's a unique person, I will look at her differently. So my behavior with each individual will be the way I interact with them. Some people will call it prejudiced. Even though in my decision making, I'm showing no difference, but interaction will be different. So I have defined it that way, that when I look at something, of course, I will always have a reaction. So, and I being a sexist statement I'm giving you, if I look at a beautiful woman, right, I will always, oh my God, look at the beautiful woman going. But that is information, right? It's an information based on our knowledge. We can differentiate between a beautiful woman and a not beautiful woman. This is what society taught us. If society has taught us differently, and in the beginning they have showed us that black is the most beautiful color in the world, we will look at white people differently, right? Then we will be more attracted towards black people. So this is a teaching that was given to us. What do we do with that information defines my character. So if I see a lonely, beautiful lady going, and if I go after her and torture her or abuse her, that is what is not acceptable in society. That should not be acceptable. And that should define my character, right? But if I see her, it's like a flower. I look at a flower, I say it's beautiful, and I leave it on the plant. I don't immediately take it out and throw it away. So that information and actions, one is universal and other one is character-based. So we need to work more on changing the character, reforming the character. And by teaching our children, parents need to teach our children. There's nothing ugly or nothing beautiful. They're all creation of God. And if you think from a higher perspective, they all are beautiful because they all belong to some family. They all belong to some mother who loves them to death, who think they're the most beautiful children in the world. Then who we are to claim that they're not beautiful.
So basically going back to your incident where you were not hired because of how Indian you looked, the fact that you were Indian was just a fact. It was an information. But the fact that you were not hired, you were discriminated because you were too Indian, that's unacceptable.
But if I consider that as discrimination, if you look from their point of view, they were justified because they wanted people to fit in that management monolith so they can work together productively. So they were looking from their company's perspective.
That's right. Right now you have a different perspective because you consult other managers
Right.
on the issue. So you see that in a different way. Okay, I see that.
If their information was changed, if they were taught that we must be diverse, that we must learn to work together with diversity, then they would probably hire me this time if I go out there, because I'm very qualified and I'm diverse. So it depends on what we know also.
It depends on the company's culture.
Yeah.
If they embrace
Exactly.
diversity. But to what extent they include diversity, again, is a decision that they are making.
And remember, they all have information and their character determines how they will take that in action.
So let's say you were hired, right, at that time, and you were not included within the team, the management team. Based on what you know now, what would you do?
Yeah. So that is an indication that they followed the rules, that they must be diverse, but they still don't believe in it. I had a situation like that. I worked for a company. I was hired as a project manager. So I did the work, but I was very honest in my work. I didn't play games, didn't play golf with the managers. So I was kind of left alone and I didn't grow. And I was not included in key management decisions. So I knew right away that they are separating me. I didn't use the word discriminating. I said they were separating me because of who I am. And I said, instead of changing the whole monolith there, I should move on. And that was in Iowa. And from there, I moved on to Chicago. And that was the best decision I made because I was project manager there. Here I became director of operations.
But would you, at that point, would you try to start playing golf with them as well?
I'm not a people pleaser that way. I don't
Okay.
want to play games to be successful. I will still work on my terms. I will not compromise my pride in performance.
This is a place that your ego is supporting you.
Yeah, this is the positive ego. It is
This is the
showing
positive.
that these are my values. And you have your values. You can bend them you want. I will live with my values and I'll be happiest man on earth.
That's true. I just want to thank you again for this time you have gifted us and all the wisdom you shared with me and our audience.
I want to thank you, Mehran, for inviting me to this podcast.
In this episode, Kam taught us many valuable tips, especially around career growth and development, about accent, about ego. If you found this interview valuable, I think you will like our 18th episode as well, where JP Millen, board member at CVS Health, talk about embracing cultures and implementing diversity in the companies he led. It will be full of new information for you. As always, thank you for listening and sharing our immigrant stories with your friends and your colleagues who need to be inspired. Those who need their beliefs challenged to feel empowered as an immigrant. We can't thank you enough if you took the time to write us a review. They energize us and give us the feedback we need to improve. Thank you again for listening, and I know I will have you on February 1st for the next episode of Empowering Conversations, where all of us can learn from successful immigrants, one conversation at a time.